Welcome back to Hillbilly Pillars and my ranking of Bob Dylan's studio albums. We are now in the top 20, so I'm getting pretty stoked. It's been a slow train rolling to this point, but we're picking up steam. Speaking of slow train rolling, coming in at number 20 from 1979 is Bob Dylan's first foray into his Christian religious phase, Slow Train Coming. Interestingly enough, if I recall, this won a Grammy for some Grammy for some sort of album of the year. I don't think it was like the overall, but it was something, which I think is pretty wild. You look through history of the Grammys are so random on what does and doesn't win. But I thought that was pretty interesting that he won. With this, he was, as the reporting goes and like follow-up books and stuff, he was on the road and exhausted from touring. Was I think maybe physically ill. When at a show, someone tossed up a silver cross onto the stage, and he actually held on and kept that cross, and then had what he said was an actual visitation from Jesus in a hotel room, and he got saved, as they say. He got into a religious thing out in California. I think it was the Vineyard Fellowship or something, spearheaded by a guy or stuff. And this wasn't just like a light turn. He went all the way in. The album is completely faith-based, Jesus-centric. And when he backed and toured these albums infamously, he just only played these types of songs, much to the chagrin of his audience. And that has trended for the rest of his career, him not necessarily playing what people were hoping he would play live. My favorite Mark Knopflering on his guitar. He's guests on a few albums, but it is like, I almost, in my own way, kind of consider this almost like a Bob Dylan / Mark Knopfler album, because it's so imbued with his guitar sound. It's so distinctive in it. I think the first side is a really, really strong Bob side. We've Got to Serve Somebody, Slow Train Coming, which is long time live staple. I Believe in You is a very, very heartfelt vocal on that. Precious Angel, I think, is a great track. The second half kind of falls off a little bit to me. I go back and forth with Man Gave Name to All the Animals. It's almost like a kid song. Sometimes I'm like, ugh, did you have to put that on here? And then sometimes I'm like, man, this album, I couldn't imagine if it didn't have it. So I don't know. I guess that's a mood thing. I go back and forth on that. I think he always will. The closer, I think, is really a spectacular Bob closer. It's him. I think if I remember reading, he'd actually recorded When He Returns with the idea that one of his backup singers would sing it. It is a very vocal gospel track all the way, but Bob gave it a run, and I think he sounded great, and he ended up putting it on the record. It's funny. I was thinking about it. I really like the album. Obviously, it's up here at 20, which, and there's 39 that I've ranked. We're like halfway, so it's up in the pack. So I really do like it, but there wasn't a lot of things stand out I could think of specifically to say about it. So we got Slow Train Coming at number 20. Next album, however, I got a lot of thoughts on. At number 19 is 1993's World Gone Wrong. His second solo acoustic album, coming out of his 80s doldrums, I guess, for the most part, you could say. There is one album at the tail end of the 80s, which is yet to show up on my list, which is a different beast altogether. But I really have a strong feeling and a sense that this is perhaps the most pivotal album in his career. It seems coming out of all the 80s stuff and not really knowing what he was wanting to do or kind of where he could get the juice for his songs. I feel like that this was the album he returned back to whatever that wellspring of inspiration was that initially he felt as like a young kid. This is all just my speculation and my vibes. But kind of this blood of the land infused, blues based, kind of old man blues swagger type of energy to the approach and the musicality and just the vibe seems to be what he carried forward in his latter day career. In the way Good As I've Been to You feels kind of like a grab bag of like traditional type of folk songs. This seems to be a very dark, more specifically pieced together group of songs. Just some brooding, harsh tracks. I mean, it's called World Gone Wrong. You've got that title track, World Gone Wrong. You got Ragged and Dirty, Blood in My Eyes, Broke Down Engine, Delia, Two Soldiers, just songs about murder, death, bloodlust. It is in a lot of ways just not pussyfooting around material. I think Bob is exceptional in his delivery of these songs, like really kind of like, okay, he still was the guy who there weren't many who could go, you know, if you took this and he just performed it, who could sit with a single instrument just delivering songs and kind of own the way he does and the way he did at the time. One of the things I really love about the album is he went all in on the liner notes, kind of seriously emphasizing. I actually wanted to take a piece of that. They're just on the back of the vinyl here. I think, if I remember right, they were like, you had to open up the thing from the original CD thing. But this is just coming in at the tail end about the last song and how he closes it. He says, Lone Pilgrim is from an old Doc Watson record. What attracts me to the song is how the lunacy of trying to fool the self is set aside at some given point. Salvation and the needs of mankind are prominent. And I'm not sure how to pronounce this word, but I'm going to go hegemony takes a breathing spell. My soul flew to mansions on high, end quote. That's a lyric, the final lyric of the song. What's essentially true is virtual reality. Technology to wipe out truth is now available. Not everybody can afford it, but it's available. When the cost comes down, look out. He might have been foretelling AI there. There won't be songs like these anymore. Factually, there aren't any now. And just the whole riff on that on all these songs, he just gets right to it, in my opinion. And yeah, I think, once again, this is the real table setter. And interestingly, as far as not in like number of albums, but years-wise, this is also pretty amazing to think about when you think about the longevity of Bob Dylan's career. This is his like a mid-career album, you know? He started in 62. This is 93. And this is like, at least up to now, this is mid-career. But I just think it's an essential and important Dylan record. But outside that, it's also just really great. So, yeah, that's number 19, World Gone Wrong. Number 18, we are going back to the 80s, 1983's Infidels. Love it. Love Infidels. It's got a little bit of like, it's got a little bit of some reggae vibe to it. You got Mark Knopfler again, and just a number of devastating songs. His opener on this, Joker Man, is just in the running for his best song, in my opinion, and in the running for the best album opener. He has just a remarkable song. And I think, you know, once again, I go back to, I wasn't old enough or into Bob at the time, but I have to imagine coming out of that Christian phase, and this is, there's reports he's going to do an album and it's not Christian centric. It's back to his quote unquote secular music or whatever. And for it to kick off with Joker Man, you have to be like, our guy is all the way back, because it just no one else can write a song quite like Joker Man, in my opinion. Yeah, it's just 8 tracks. This is one of those albums where I just Bob and his live choices, I just couldn't believe. I remember, I was just deep dive Killing Time one time, and I was absolutely stunned. He has never performed Sweetheart Like You or Don't Fall Apart on Me Tonight live. I'm pretty highly sure of that. I might be wrong. It may have been like one-off something. Actually, because I'm that guy, actually in 1991, he did a half of a version. I don't believe that's the case. I don't think he's ever played either one of those really, really great Bob songs, and just ones that would seem to work in this flow of his never-ending tour. Sometimes with what he is like, he never revisits. He's got his reasons, but that's kind of head-spinning. This is one of those albums where it is like what he left off, an outtake from Infidels, Blind Willie McTell, and it's just straight. The version that they didn't include is on the bootleg series, volumes 1 through 3. That is one of those where I'm like, I don't know how you hear that and don't put it on the record. I don't know how you do it. I understand you're working, and I believe in albums, so I'm like, sometimes a great song, yeah, Bruce has done this, just doesn't fit within what you're working on an album. I get that, but I think this would work greatly. This is one of those, I've done it for a few albums where I did an alternate playlist for myself. I tried to stick to the rules, like this was the time of the vinyl age, so I make sure it's not more than you maybe get at most 24 minutes for a side, and I tried to not go over that, and I tried to only use songs that were recorded for that session, and I also, for me, also ended up being on the bootleg series thing. Foot of Pride, it's another out one. I would have had that. Yeah, I really love this album and the sound. License to Kill is one of those particularly unique, kind of not lengthy, but hallmarky Bob tracks within an album, I think, and I return to often, and I love I. It's complex, and you can listen to it 100 times and get different things from it. There is, Neighborhood Bully has gotten a rough run lately. I will stay out of that, understandably, but I've always kind of dug the song just in itself, but I can understand how especially in these modern news times, that can be problematic for people. But and Union Sundown is just a straight up riff on how nothing is made in the United States. But once again, I dig it and I like it. And Infidels is just an album I return to often, and I love it. And that is number 18. Man, we are getting high. All right. Number 17, 1976. One of his very best-selling albums. I don't know, is this outside of this might be his, it was some weird thing where I remember it stood out to me, this might be his best-selling album outside of, greatest hits. The greatest hits always rule, but, this might be his greatest selling album. But, excuse that. But, it is Desire. Yeah. What a great, infectious, driving album. It, of course, starts off with the song about the boxer Reuben Carter. And, it's one of those, I think that's kind of one of those Bob tracks I take for granted. That's way up there on his most streamed song list. It could very well be his finest vocal performance on a studio track. He just goes all the way in on it. Isis is a great rumbler of a tale. Mozambique is quirky, but I really like it. I've talked about my buddy Ben, who is just the more weird the better with the Bob stuff. I don't know how to say this, like unironically, ironically, is that a thing? His favorite Bob Dylan thing is Live at Budokan. Good old Ben. I mean, he loves that stuff, but like he loves it. And Mozambique is like the heart and essence of Live at Budokan. That energy. One more cup of coffee. It's got like that kind of like a Middle Eastern kind of musicality to it. Oh Sisters, a beautiful, beautiful track. Kicking off side two is probably Bob's most maligned epic song, long song, Joey, about the gangster. You know, he was a gangster, and I don't think he was probably the best guy. But this kind of paints him in kind of like, you know, that like, you know, like how Jesse James and those guys songs. I mean, Jesse James was a murderous lad, but just kind of like romanticizes the arch of his story, which I think some people found problematic, but I love it. I'll always remember my oldest brother, Eric. Just out of nowhere, I get a text, and it's a picture of him, and he's looking very serious, and he's holding a fork emerging from the edge of a restaurant. And what I realized was he was sending me a photo from when he was in New York City at the restaurant where Joey got gunned down. You know, one day they blew him down in a clam bar in New York. He could see it coming through the door as he lifted up his fork. And I was just like, yeah, that's one of my all-time favorite random texts I've ever received. I love Romance in Durango. That's like a Netflix Knives Out film set to music. This is really cool. It's like a murder mystery. It's like kind of a little Lily Rosemary and the Jack of Hearts vibe, but in a different way. Not Romance in Durango. I mean Black Diamond Bay, if that's what I said. Romance in Durango, man. That Romance in Durango live from the bootleg series and from the Rolling Thunder review. That's like, to me, a top 5 Bob Dylan all-time live thing. It's so fantastic. It's so great. And Sarah, I don't know. I hedge a little bit on Sarah because it's so personal. It's like, I mean, kudos to him in recording that, you know, song about his wife, and he has these visions and reflections of her and their children playing on the beach, and it's like it's a desperate, heartbreaking song, you know. And at this time they were splitting up, and it almost feels too personal sometimes, which I guess that's more of a me thing than a him thing. He gets to decide what is and isn't past the line as far as what he wants to put out on a record. But it's a heck of a like closer. But yeah, Desire gets it, man. It's just such a great release. Great album cover, great vibe Bob had going on there, you know, and I love it. So we are now down to 16. I kind of thought for me that this might have ended up a little higher, but once again, I didn't. I really tried to be honest within myself of like, once again, favorites, and like, nah, you know, I just when I would look at the bigger picture, say I can't justify saying it as more of a favorite than these other albums. But this is definitely my pick for folk Bob Dylan guy album, and that is, what is this? These years went by fast. I think it's 64. I might be wrong. It's all within that same insane 4-year period. But that is The Times They Are Changing. Man, what a fantastic like reflection of the songs within album cover. Yeah, the world is harsh and black and white, and has got this young man disjointed. It kicks off with the title track. It then moves unceasingly with Ballad of Hollis Brown coming up next, and you've got, you know, a man so desperate and he takes himself and his family out. The pining eternal question as our country launches itself into another war with a lot of discussion about, it being some higher power's will that those people, whoever's designating that, die and we don't, and they die at our hands in the name of a divine entity and with God on our side. That song will always, unfortunately, it'll always be prevalent. I don't think there'll ever be a time in human history where it won't be like, remember when that was a consideration and have evolved past that? I don't know, maybe in a hopefulness one day. The one light song is really not that light, and it's just a beautiful song, and one that has stood the test of time through different iterations, and is one he returns to live often, which is One Too Many Mornings. And then North Country Blues, where that is really reflective, I think maybe the most in his whole thing, of where he's from, where he grew up. That is Bob Dylan talking about ore mining country, from where he's from. Then side two kicks off with this album. Only a Pawn in Their Game, Boots of Spanish Leather, Oh When the Ship Comes In, The Lonesome Death of Hetty Carroll, and then it closes with Restless Farewell. I think that's one of his greatest all-time closers. There was, you can go check it out on YouTube, there was a Frank Sinatra tribute, and all this runs together as a Bob Dylan fan, but it was probably now, man, that thing was 25 years ago or something like that. But it was, people were coming on, it was when Frank was still around, and it was like a dedication to Frank Sinatra with, the type of level of acts that would get Bob Dylan to do it. And he does it live, and he didn't do a Frank song, and my belief from what I remember reading was that this was at Frank's request. He asked Bob to play Restless Farewell. I think about that as pretty badass to me. I think about Bob turning around and doing all those Frank songs later, but he does Restless Farewell there, and I think it's a terrific version. And there does seem to be a very serious, contemplative looking face on Sinatra as Bob performs it, and I just think it's a really cool moment and a great performance. I would try to seek that out. And I think this album will stand the test of time. I do kind of laugh at myself because I think the songs on Freewheelin' and Another Side That Slow It Off are kind of like the talking blues ones, or the ones that get a little humorous, and that kind of misses me. And it's funny, these things, going back about getting into Bob when I did, I made these decisions when I was young, and I do find as I have gotten older, I think this is an interesting thing, might be a whole nother video, but I found myself a lot more tolerant of stuff that isn't so serious. I mean, I think when I was 19, man, this has to be serious. Like, I remember when I was just a kid, like that age, I did not get into Prime. I was aware of them, but it just seemed a little too jokey for me. Like, and that's that now it's like, man, I think enough years get on you, and most of us have to have that capacity to laugh at some of this stuff, because if you can't, you'll just go crazy. And that is obviously, baked into like the essence of Prime's music. Like, it's understood that what he's singing to you means everything, but you have to be able to laugh at that stuff sometimes because it's just too heavy not to. And so at number 16, we've got The Times They Are Changing. All right, we have come a long way. I really appreciate y'all coming along for this ride so far. It has been a lot of fun. All right, we'll see you next time.